Commander Elizabeth Wright stood on the bridge of the spaceship Intrepid and looked out at the stars. Earth seemed small and blue in the distance. 3 years had passed since the aliens called Vexari first came to Earth. They had arrived in giant silver ships that blocked the sun and made people afraid at first. Elizabeth remembered that day clearly. She had been a captain then, not yet a commander. The world's leaders gathered in New York as the Vexari ship landed in Central Park. Trees bent under the force of the engines. People watched from behind safety lines, their phones recording everything. The Vexari that stepped out looked almost beautiful. They stood 7 feet tall with skin that shimmered like polished metal. Their eyes were large and completely black. They had 4 long fingers on each hand and moved with strange grace. "We come in peace and friendship," the leader had said in perfect English. His name was Zenith, and his voice had a musical quality that made people want to trust him. "We have traveled far to find intelligent life. We wish to share our knowledge with you." Daniel Hargrove, Elizabeth's friend and second in command, hadn't trusted them from the start. "They're too perfect," Daniel whispered to her during the welcome party at the White House. "No one crosses space just to be nice." Elizabeth sipped her drink and watched Zenith charm the president. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they need allies. Or maybe they want something we have, Daniel said. But most people didn't share Daniel's doubts. The Vexari brought gifts, medicines that cured diseases humans had fought for centuries, clean energy technology that worked better than anything on Earth, and food-growing methods that could end hunger. Within a year, Vexari ships were common, sights in Earth's skies. Their diplomats worked in every major city. Their scientists taught at top universities. Children played with Vexari toys. Adults watched Vexari entertainment. The aliens were becoming part of daily life. Elizabeth was promoted to commander and given the Intrepid, a new ship built with Vexari help. It could reach Mars in days instead of months. Her mission was to establish the first human colony on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The Vexari had suggested the location, saying the moon's ice-covered ocean would be perfect for humans. "This partnership benefits everyone," Zenith said at the Intrepid's launch ceremony. "Humans get to explore space, and we gain friends who see the universe with fresh eyes." Dr. Gregory Stone didn't believe it was that simple. As the chief scientist studying alien biology at the Mars Research Station, he had noticed things others missed. "Commander, you need to see this," Gregory said during Elizabeth's inspection visit to Mars. He showed her a microscope image of human blood cells. "These are from colonists who had Vexari medical exams." Elizabeth looked but didn't understand. "What am I seeing?" "Tiny machines, nanobots. They're in everyone who's been treated by Vexari doctors," Gregory explained. "They say it's for monitoring health, but they never mentioned putting them there. Why keep it secret?" Elizabeth felt uneasy. "Have you told anyone else?" "I reported it to Admiral Bennett. She ordered me to keep investigating quietly," Gregory said. "There's more. The Vexari have been taking soil, water, and air samples everywhere they go, more than they need for scientific study." Elizabeth trusted Gregory. He wasn't someone who saw problems where none existed. "Keep track of everything," she told him. "Send reports directly to me." Back on the Intrepid, Elizabeth decided to pay closer attention to their Vexari allies. She assigned Lieutenant Susan Campbell to monitor all Vexari communications they could detect. A week later, Susan requested an urgent private meeting. "They're scanning us," Susan said, showing Elizabeth data on her tablet. "Not just our ship. Every human facility in space, every defense system on Earth, they're mapping everything. Maybe it's standard procedure for them," Elizabeth suggested, but she didn't believe it. "They're focusing on weapons systems and power grids," Susan replied. "That's not friendly behavior." Elizabeth made a decision. "Change our course. Tell Europa we're delayed due to engine problems. I want to see what the Vexari are doing near Saturn." The Intrepid altered course quietly. 3 days later, they detected unusual energy readings coming from the far side of Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Elizabeth ordered the ship to approach, slowly, using the moon to hide their presence. What they saw shocked everyone on the bridge. A massive Vexari ship was extracting something from Titan's surface. Hundreds of smaller vessels moved between the ship and the moon. "What are they taking?" Daniel asked. "Hydrocarbons," the science officer replied. "Titan is rich in them. But why hide this operation? They could have asked permission." Elizabeth watched through the view screen. "Because they don't think they need permission. Record everything." Just then, alarms sounded across the bridge. "We've been detected," Susan shouted from her station. "Vexari ships approaching fast." "Open a channel," Elizabeth ordered. "Tell them we're on a routine patrol." Before they could send the message, the first shots hit the Intrepid. The ship shook violently. "They're firing on us," Daniel yelled. "Shields failing." Elizabeth grabbed the command console as another blast rocked the ship. "Return fire. Get us out of here." The Intrepid turned and accelerated away from Titan, but 3 Vexari ships followed. Their weapons were far more powerful than anything the human vessel carried. "Send a warning to Earth," Elizabeth commanded. "Tell them the Vexari are hostile. Include all our recordings." Susan worked frantically at her station. "Message sent, but I don't know if it got through. They're jamming our communications." Another blast hit them, and half the bridge went dark. Emergency lights came on, casting red shadows across worried faces. "Engine room reporting heavy damage," Daniel said. "We can't outrun them." Elizabeth looked at her crew. Good people who had trusted her leadership. She wouldn't let them down. "Set course for Earth, maximum speed," she ordered. "We need to warn everyone, whatever it takes." As the damaged Intrepid limped toward home, Elizabeth wondered how many other Vexari secrets they had yet to discover. Whatever the aliens really wanted, she was now certain of one thing. They had never come in peace. She didn't know it yet, but they had just witnessed the first act of a betrayal that would change humanity forever. Richard Blackwood woke up to the sound of sirens. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the clock. It was 5:30 in the morning. His wife Laura was already up, standing by the window of their Seattle home. "Rich, come look at this," she said in a voice that made him move quickly. The sky had turned a strange purple color. In the distance, several Vexari ships hovered over downtown Seattle. They were larger than the usual ships that had become common sights over the past 3 years. "Wake Lily," Richard told Laura. "I think we should go to the basement." As Laura went to get their 8-year-old daughter, Richard turned on the television. The emergency broadcast system was active on every channel. "This is not a test," said a nervous-looking news anchor. "Vexari ships have positioned themselves over major cities worldwide. All attempts to communicate with them have failed. We advise all citizens to—" The broadcast cut off. Richard tried his phone. No signal. He went to the window again and saw smaller objects falling from the large ships. They looked like pods of some kind. Richard's brother Kevin was a major at the military base just outside the city. He tried the emergency radio they had given each other after the big earthquake 5 years ago. Kevin, are you there?" Richard called into the radio. After some static, Kevin's voice came through, but it sounded distant and broken. "Rich, they're attacking. Not what we thought. They're harvesting us." "What do you mean, harvesting?" Richard asked, his heart beating faster. "They're taking people. Whole neighborhoods yaw into their ships. Get out. Go to the mountain. They're—" The radio went silent. Laura came downstairs with Lily, who was still half asleep. "What's happening?" Laura asked. Before Richard could answer, a bright flash lit up the sky. The power went out in their house and across the neighborhood. Through the window, they saw cars stop in the street as their electronics failed. "We need to go now," Richard said, grabbing their emergency backpack. Kevin said to head for the mountains. They got into their old truck, which Richard had never converted to the new electrical systems the Vexari had brought to Earth. The engine started with a roar, one of the few vehicles still working on their street. As they drove away from the city, they saw one of the Vexari pods land in a neighborhood behind them. A strange beam of light shot out from it, covering several blocks. When the light disappeared, so had all the people who had been in the streets. High above Earth, on the International Space Station, Astronaut Patricia Miller watched in horror. The space station had a clear view of what was happening below. Cities around the world were being attacked at the same time. Patricia turned on the station's camera system and began recording. This is astronaut Patricia Miller on the ISS. The date is July 7th. The Vexari are attacking Earth. They are using some kind of technology to capture humans. I can see it happening in cities across all continents. She zoomed the camera in on New York. A massive Vexari ship hovered over Manhattan. A beam of light extended from the ship, and entire blocks of buildings and people were lifted into the air, then pulled into the ship's open bay. "They're not destroying," Patricia said into the recorder. "They're collecting. Humans, buildings, everything." The space station shook suddenly. Patricia looked out the window and saw a Vexari ship approaching. It was smaller than the ones attacking Earth, but still much larger than the space station. She quickly sent her recording to every ground station still receiving signals, then headed for the escape pod. She didn't know if she could reach Earth, but she had to try. In Washington, D.C., deep under the Pentagon, General Frank Murphy gathered with the remaining military leaders. The room was lit by emergency generators and filled with grim faces. "What do we know?" Frank asked. Colonel Samantha Rodriguez stepped forward. The attacks began simultaneously across the globe at 05:30 Eastern Time. The Vexari targeted communication systems first, then power grids. Their ships are positioned over 157 major cities. They're using some kind of gravitational technology to lift people and buildings into their vessels. "Casualties?" Frank asked. "Unknown, but in the millions already," Samantha replied. "They seem to be focusing on populated areas, not military targets." A scientist named Dr. Eric Powell spoke up. "We've decoded some of their transmissions. They're not here for cultural exchange or friendship. Earth is a resource extraction project to them. They're taking water, minerals, and us." Frank looked at the faces around the table. "Options? We've tried nuclear strikes on the ships over remote areas," said Admiral Vincent Rogers. "The missiles shut down before they get close. It's like they just turn off." "What about conventional weapons?" "Some success with older systems," Vincent said. "Nothing computerized works against them. It's like they put a backdoor into all our new tech." Frank nodded slowly. "Because they did. All that technology they shared with us over the past 3 years. We welcomed them, let them upgrade our systems. They were preparing for this all along." The door to the room burst open. A young officer ran in, out of breath. "Sir, we've received a transmission from the ECS Intrepid, Commander Wright's ship. They discovered a Vexari mining operation near Saturn days ago. They were attacked when the Vexari discovered them watching." "Where is the Intrepid now?" Frank asked. "Destroyed, sir. But they managed to send data before they were hit. It contains information about Vexari ship weaknesses." Frank stood up straight. "Get that data to our engineers immediately. And send a message on all emergency channels, all old radio frequencies, everything the Vexari haven't compromised. Tell our forces to use only pre-Vexari technology. Mechanical weapons, old radios, anything they didn't help us improve." He walked to the large map on the wall, looking at the red dots that showed Vexari ship positions. "They think we're just another primitive species they can harvest," Frank said quietly. "They have no idea what humans do when backed into a corner." He turned to face the room. "We are at war. Not for land or resources or power, for our very existence. And this is one war humanity cannot afford to lose." Outside, the sky continued to glow purple as more Vexari ships entered Earth's atmosphere. The day of betrayal had come. But soon the aliens would learn that betraying humans was the biggest mistake they could ever make. 2 weeks after the Vexari attack began, Dr. Alicia Ramirez worked in a small lab hidden inside a mountain in Colorado. The lab had been built during the Cold War and forgotten by most people. Now, it was one of the few safe places left for scientists to work. Alicia hadn't slept much since the attack. Her family was in Phoenix when the Vexari ships came. She hadn't heard from them since. Now she poured her grief into her work, studying the piece of Vexari technology on her table. "Any progress?" asked Colonel Peter Ryan, the military officer, in charge of the facility. Alicia looked up from her microscope. Yes, I think I found something important. She pointed to a screen showing the inner workings of a small Vexari device. It had been taken from one of their drones that crashed in the Rocky Mountains. The Vexari neural system works differently than ours, Alicia explained. They evolved on a planet with a different kind of radiation than Earth. Our microwave frequencies seemed to disrupt their technology. Peter leaned closer to look. You mean like microwave ovens? Similar but more specific, Alicia said. I've found the exact frequency that affects them most. If we can build devices that emit this frequency, we might be able to disable their ships and weapons. Peter smiled for the first time in days. How quickly can you build a prototype? Give me 3 days, Alicia said. Meanwhile, in the Atlantic Ocean, a submarine called the USS Barracuda moved silently beneath the waves. The Barracuda was old, built before the Vexari came to Earth. Its systems were not connected to any networks the aliens could access. Commander Elizabeth Wright stood in the control room. She had survived the destruction of the Intrepid by reaching an escape pod. After floating in space for days, she had been picked up by a Russian space station and brought back to Earth just before the attack began. Status report, Elizabeth asked. Lieutenant Susan Campbell, who had also survived, checked the radar. No Vexari ships nearby were clear to surface and receive communications. The Barracuda rose until its communication mast was above water. Messages began coming in from resistance groups around the world. Chicago Resistance reports successful raid on Vexari ground forces. They captured weapons and a communication device. Australian forces destroyed 3 smaller Vexari ships using old fighter jets. Dr. Ramirez at Rocky Mountain Base has discovered a potential weakness in Vexari technology. Elizabeth read each report carefully. Humans were fighting back hard, but in a scattered, uncoordinated way. They needed to work together to have any real chance. Send a message to all resistance groups, Elizabeth ordered. We need to coordinate our attacks. Tell them about the old military base under the ocean near Hawaii. We'll meet there in 1 week to plan a global response. On the other side of the world, Captain Daniel Hargrove led a small team through the ruins of London. Like Elizabeth, he had survived the Intrepid's destruction. Now he was on a mission to capture Vexari technology that could help the resistance. There, Daniel whispered, pointing to a building where lights glowed. That's a Vexari command post. His team of 6 moved quietly through the empty streets. They wore simple clothes and carried weapons made before the Vexari came to Earth. Rifles, grenades, and knives. Remember the plan, Daniel said. We need their communication device intact. That's our primary goal. They waited until night when fewer Vexari were in the building. Then they attacked from 3 sides at once. The Vexari were caught by surprise. Their weapons were powerful but slow to aim. Daniel's team moved fast, shooting and moving to new positions. In 10 minutes, the fight was over. 4 Vexari lay dead. 1 human had been wounded but would survive. Got it, said Maria Lopez, the team's technology expert. She held up a shiny device the size of a laptop. Their main communication system. Daniel nodded. Let's move before more come. They retreated to an underground train tunnel where other resistance members waited. Maria immediately began studying the Vexari device. This is amazing, she said after an hour. It doesn't just let them talk to each other. It contains data about their entire operation. Star maps, previous planets they visited, everything. Daniel looked over her shoulder at the alien text on the screen. Can you read it? Some of it, Maria replied. Enough to know that Earth isn't their first target. They've done this before many times. They find planets with resources they want, pretend to be friendly, then attack and take everything. Any information about their weaknesses? Daniel asked. Maria scrolled through more data. Yes. According to this, they've never encountered serious resistance after their initial attack. Their ships have strong frontal shields but weak points underneath. And they don't expect counterattacks. They think once their technology advantage is established, they've already won. Daniel smiled grimly. Then they don't understand humans very well. At the Rocky Mountain base, Alicia Ramirez finished building her prototype device. It looked like a satellite dish connected to a modified microwave generator. Ready for testing, she told Colonel Ryan. They took the device outside the mountain base. A small Vexari drone had been spotted flying in the area each day. They waited until it appeared over the trees. Activating now, Alicia said, turning on her device. The dish pointed at the drone and emitted waves at the special frequency she had discovered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the drone began to fly erratically. It spun in circles, dropped in altitude, and finally crashed into the ground. Colonel Ryan walked over to the fallen drone. Its lights were off, and it made no sound. It worked, he said with amazement. This is just the beginning, Alicia replied. We need to make much bigger versions to affect their ships, and we need to share this discovery with resistance groups everywhere. At the underwater base near Hawaii, Elizabeth Wright received the news about the microwave weapon and the captured communication device. For the first time since the attack, she felt real hope. Representatives from resistance groups around the world had gathered at the base. They brought reports of human fighters becoming more effective as they learned Vexari weaknesses and tactics. The tide is turning, Elizabeth told the assembled leaders. We know their weaknesses now. We have a way to fight back. She pointed to a map of the world showing Vexari ship positions. In 1 month, we will launch a coordinated global attack. Operation Retribution will target all Vexari forces simultaneously. They thought we would surrender. They were wrong. The leaders cheered and began planning their parts in the attack. The Vexari had made a fatal mistake. They had betrayed humanity, thinking humans would be easy victims. Now they would learn why that was a death sentence. 1 month after the resistance leaders met at the underwater base, Operation Retribution began. The early morning sky was still dark as humans around the world prepared to attack the Vexari all at once. Elizabeth Wright stood on a hill overlooking what used to be San Francisco. The beautiful city was now mostly empty. 3 large Vexari ships hovered above it, using beams of light to lift buildings and resources into their cargo holds. It's time, Elizabeth said into her old-style radio. All teams in position? Voices replied from different parts of the city, confirming they were ready. Elizabeth looked at her watch. 5 minutes until the global attack would begin. Nearby, a team of engineers made final adjustments to a large device. It looked like a satellite dish mounted on a truck, but much bigger than the prototype Dr. Ramirez had built. This was a full-size, microwave emitter designed to disable Vexari ships. Power levels at maximum, reported the lead engineer. Ready to fire on your command. Around the world, similar scenes played out as resistance fighters prepared their weapons. In London, Daniel Hargrove led a team carrying portable microwave emitters. In Tokyo, local fighters had converted a radio tower to emit the special frequency. In Rio de Janeiro, they had hidden emitters in tall buildings around the main Vexari landing site. Elizabeth's watch beeped. It was time. Operation Retribution begins now, she said into the radio. All teams attack. The large microwave emitter hummed to life. A beam of invisible energy shot toward the nearest Vexari ship. For a few seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ship's lights flickered. Its hovering became unstable. All across San Francisco, more emitters activated, targeting all 3 ships. The Vexari vessels began to drift sideways like they had lost control. Ground teams, move in, Elizabeth ordered. Hundreds of human fighters emerged from hiding places. They carried old weapons, guns, grenades, even bows and arrows. Anything that didn't rely on modern technology the Vexari could disable. They attacked the Vexari ground forces, who seemed confused without guidance from their ships. Similar battles erupted in cities worldwide. The coordinated attack had caught the Vexari completely by surprise. In London, Daniel's team fired their portable emitters at a small Vexari patrol ship. It crashed into the Thames River with a huge splash. His fighters quickly surrounded it. Get that hatch open, Daniel ordered. We need prisoners and more technology. 2 engineers used tools to force open the ship's door. Inside, they found 4 Vexari crew members, stunned but alive. The humans quickly tied them up and began removing equipment from the ship. "This is London team," Daniel reported over the radio. "We've captured a patrol ship and 4 Vexari. Moving to our second target now." In orbit above Earth, the Vexari mothership received alarming reports from all over the planet. Ambassador Zenith stood on the command bridge, his silver skin now dull with stress. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They are a primitive species. They should not be able to coordinate a global attack. The humans are using our communication codes," a Vexari officer reported. "They must have captured one of our devices, and they've discovered a way to disable our ship controls with some kind of energy weapon." Zenith walked to the view screen, which showed Earth below. Red dots indicated Vexari ships in trouble or already destroyed. "Send reinforcements to major collection sites," Zenith ordered. "Increase security on all vessels. We cannot allow them to capture more of our technology." But it was already too late. In NASA's old launch facility in Florida, a team led by engineer William Carter had reprogrammed Earth's satellite network. The satellites now targeted Vexari communications with jamming signals, preventing them from coordinating their forces. At the same time, former cybersecurity expert Natalie Diaz used captured Vexari devices to send false orders to their ground troops. Some Vexari forces were retreating from areas where no humans were attacking. Others remained in place when they should have moved. Back in San Francisco, Elizabeth saw one of the Vexari ships lose altitude rapidly. It crashed into the bay with a massive explosion. The other 2 ships were trying to escape, rising higher, into the atmosphere. "Don't let them get away," she ordered. "Maximum power to the emitters." The microwave beams intensified. The second ship began spinning, unable to control its movement. It collided with the third ship, and both exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the morning sky. Human fighters cheered. Elizabeth didn't join them. She knew this was just the beginning of a long battle. "Report from all sectors," she said into the radio. The news came in from around the world. Everywhere, humans had achieved surprise and success. Over 20 Vexari ships had been destroyed. Dozens more were damaged. Hundreds of ground forces had been captured or killed. Human casualties were much lower than expected. But the Vexari still had their mothership and many other vessels. The war was far from over. In his mountain laboratory, Dr. Gregory Stone studied the data from captured Vexari systems. He had made a crucial discovery. "Commander Wright," he said over the secure radio, "I found something important in their navigation. Data. All Vexari ships are connected to the mothership. If we can disable it, we might be able to stop them all at once." "How do we reach the mothership?" Elizabeth asked. "It's in orbit. We don't have spacecraft that can get there." There was a pause before Gregory answered. "Actually, we do. The Vexari patrol ships can reach orbit. If we capture one intact, we could use it to approach the mothership." Elizabeth considered this idea. It was dangerous, but might be their best chance. "Daniel," she called over the radio. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Daniel replied from London. "We've already captured a patrol ship. We're learning how to fly it now." "Good," Elizabeth said. "Bring it to the underwater base. We'll assemble a team for a space mission." In orbit, Zenith received more bad news. The humans had destroyed collection ships in 12 major cities. They had captured 5 patrol vessels, and they were using Vexari communication systems to coordinate their attacks. "This is unprecedented," Zenith told his officers. "No species has ever mounted such an effective counterattack after our initial harvest." A junior officer approached nervously. "Sir, we've detected an urgent message being broadcast to all human resistance groups. They're planning something big." "What is it?" Zenith demanded. "They call it the Reckoning," the officer said, "but our translators don't understand the full meaning." Zenith looked again at the planet below, where his forces were being defeated by what he had thought was an easy target. For the first time, he felt something new. Fear. The humans were coming for him, and they wanted revenge. 2 weeks after Operation Retribution began, a captured Vexari patrol ship rose from the ocean near the underwater base. The ship had been painted with Earth's flag and given a new name, Avenger. Inside the small craft, Colonel Joseph Rivers sat in the pilot seat. He had been a test pilot before the invasion and had spent days learning to fly the alien vessel. With him were 5 other crew members, including Elizabeth Wright and Daniel Hargrove. "Final systems check," Joseph said as the ship climbed through the clouds. "Weapons ready," reported Daniel. "Communication systems active," said Maria Lopez, who had studied the Vexari technology more than anyone. "Life support stable," added Dr. So. Alicia Ramirez, who had come along to operate the special device she had built into the ship. Elizabeth looked at each member of the team. They were humanity's best hope, but they were attempting something that had never been done before, a direct attack on the Vexari mothership. "Remember the plan," Elizabeth said. "We approach using Vexari codes. Once we're in their hangar, we plant the device and get to the control room. If we can disable the mothership, all other Vexari vessels will lose coordination." The Avenger accelerated, pushing through Earth's atmosphere into space. Below them, the blue planet grew smaller. Ahead, the massive Vexari mothership waited in orbit. It was enormous, at least 20 times larger than the largest human spacecraft ever built. "Incoming transmission," Maria reported. "They're asking for our identification code." "Send the one we captured," Elizabeth ordered. Maria pressed buttons on the alien console. For a tense moment, they waited. Then a response came. "It worked," Maria said with relief. "They think we're returning from patrol. They're giving us landing instructions for Bay 12. Joseph guided the ship toward the mothership, which grew larger in their view. It was shaped like a giant silver disk with numerous smaller structures attached to it. Landing bays lined one edge with giant doors that opened to receive smaller craft. "1 minute to docking," Joseph announced. "Everyone prepare for action." The team put on captured Vexari environment suits, which would help them blend in once they were aboard. Each person also carried weapons and parts of Alicia's special device. The Avenger slipped into Bay 12, a large hangar filled with other patrol ships. Joseph landed smoothly in an empty spot. The team waited until the bay was pressurized, then prepared to exit. "Go," Elizabeth commanded. They rushed out of the ship, moving quickly to avoid drawing attention. A few Vexari technicians looked at them but didn't stop them. The environment suits worked well as disguises. "This way to the central corridor," Daniel said, following a map they had extracted from captured data. The team moved through the enormous ship, staying close to walls and avoiding groups of Vexari. The hallways were tall and wide, designed for the larger alien bodies. Strange lights pulsed in the ceiling, and the air had a metallic smell. "Engine room first," Elizabeth said as they reached a junction. They turned left, following signs in Vexari language that Maria could read. After several minutes, they reached a massive chamber filled with glowing equipment. This was the heart of the mothership's power system. "Set up the device here," Elizabeth ordered. Alicia began assembling her creation, a larger version of the microwave emitter that had disabled Vexari ships on Earth. This one was designed to overload the mothership's systems from the inside. 6 minutes to activation," Alicia said as she worked. "The rest of us will head to the bridge," Elizabeth said. "We need to confront their leadership and find out where they're keeping the captured humans." Elizabeth, Daniel, Joseph, and Maria continued through the ship. They encountered more Vexari now, but moved with such purpose that none questioned them. They used a service lift to reach the upper levels where the bridge was located. Outside, the main control room, 2 large Vexari guards stood watch. Daniel and Joseph moved quickly, using small versions of the microwave device to stun the guards without noise. "Ready?" Elizabeth asked, drawing her weapon. The others nodded. Elizabeth pressed the door control and it slid open. The bridge of the mothership was a large round room with view screens showing Earth and space. About 20 Vexari officers worked at stations around the perimeter. In the center stood Ambassador Zenith talking to other Vexari leaders. Zenith looked up as the humans entered. His black eyes widened in recognition as Elizabeth removed her helmet. "You?" he exclaimed. "Yes, me," Elizabeth replied. "The commander of the ship you destroyed," I survived, along with enough humans to teach you a lesson about betrayal. The human team spread out, pointing weapons at the Vexari officers who froze in place. How did you get aboard? Zenith asked in disbelief. We used your own ship, your own codes, Daniel said. You thought we were too primitive to do that, didn't you? Maria moved to a control station, pushing aside a Vexari officer. She began typing, rapidly accessing the ship's systems. I found them, she announced after a minute. The captured humans. They're being held in storage bays on levels 12 through 17. Thousands of them. Elizabeth kept her weapon pointed at Zenith. Why? Why pretend to be our friends when you planned to betray us all along? Zenith seemed to recover from his shock. He stood straighter, his silver skin regaining some shine. It was nothing personal, he said. We have done this 17 times before on other worlds. We find suitable planets, establish contact, gain, trust, then harvest what we need. Your world has resources we require, including biological samples. Your species was just another target. You made a mistake, Elizabeth said coldly. Humans don't respond well to betrayal. At that moment, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Lights flickered and equipment sparked. What's happening? Zenith demanded. Elizabeth smiled. That would be our device activating in your engine room. It's sending the disruption frequency through all your power systems. This ship is about to lose control. The bridge shook violently. View screens went dark, then lit up again with warning messages in Vexari language. All systems failing, Maria translated. Orbit destabilizing. Zenith moved toward a control panel, but Joseph blocked his way. It's too late, Joseph said. The frequency is spreading to all systems. Elizabeth activated her radio. Alicia, status report? Device fully activated, Alicia's voice responded. I'm heading to the designated meeting point. The effect is spreading through the ship faster than expected. Good, Elizabeth said. Team, time to move to Phase 2. Release the prisoners and get to the escape vessels. Daniel and Joseph headed for the exit. Maria finished downloading data from the Vexari systems, then followed them. Elizabeth stayed a moment longer facing Zenith. Your ships around Earth are already being destroyed or captured. Your forces are in retreat. And now your mothership is failing. You can't defeat an entire spacefaring civilization, Zenith said desperately. We have more ships, more worlds. We know, Elizabeth replied. We found your star charts. After we finish here, we're coming for your homeworld next. Humans don't forgive betrayal. She turned to leave, then looked back one last time. Today is the day you learn that betraying humans is a death sentence. Within an hour, the team had released hundreds of captured humans and guided them to escape pods. The mothership continued to fail, drifting toward Earth's atmosphere where it would eventually burn up. As Elizabeth's escape pod launched from the dying ship, she watched through the window as other pods streaked away, carrying survivors back to Earth. The great Vexari mothership, once a symbol of terror, was now just another defeated enemy. Back on Earth, people looked up at the night sky to see a new bright light. The mothership burning as it fell. It was the beginning of Earth's recovery, but also the beginning of humanity's journey to the stars. The Vexari had awakened something in humans, a determination to never be victims again. With captured alien technology and a newfound unity, Earth would rebuild, stronger than before. And somewhere across the galaxy, the Vexari homeworld waited, unaware that humans were coming, bringing with them a reckoning long overdue.